What can a few pieces of gold tell us about the ancient world? Quite a lot, as it turns out. Around 3,300 years ago, the bustling port city now known as Hala Sultan Tekke in Cyprus was at the center of a vast network of trade and cultural exchange. Ships arrived laden with luxury goods and exotic materials from Egypt, the Levant, the Aegean, and beyond. But just how deeply these different cultures influenced one another has been much harder to demonstrate. Now, a new study into the decorations on gold diadems buried with the dead at Hala Sultan Tekke suggests that the inhabitants of the city combined symbolism and ideas from all over the Mediterranean and further. This port wasn't simply a trading hub, it was a cosmopolitan mix of people and cultures, exchanging not just goods but ideas too. Hala Sultan Tekke was one of the largest and wealthiest cities in late Bronze Age Cyprus. Today, its ruins lie beside the large salt lake, but more than 3,000 years ago, this was a sheltered bay, creating one of the island's best natural harbours. Its location helped transform Hala Sultan Tekke into a thriving centre of international trade. Cyprus was famous for its copper, one of the most valuable raw materials of the Bronze Age, and merchants sailed here from across the Mediterranean to obtain it. In return, they brought luxury goods and exotic materials from Egypt, Minoan Crete, Mycenaean Greece, Anatolia, and Mesopotamia. Black burnished ware from Neuralgic Sardinia has even been found there. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a sophisticated city, complete with houses, workshops, streets, wells, warehouses, and extensive cemeteries. The finds include gold jewellery, bronze weapons and tools, imported pottery, ivory, precious stones, and evidence of busy textile and metalworking industries. Together they paint a picture of a prosperous and cosmopolitan city where people, goods, and ideas from many different cultures came together. Around 1150 BCE, however, Hala Sultan Tekke was abandoned during the dramatic upheavals that marked the end of the Bronze Age. This period, often referred to as the Bronze Age collapse, saw the decline of many powerful kingdoms and trading centres across the eastern Mediterranean. Exactly what caused this collapse isn't known for certain, but rather than a single catastrophic event, most archaeologists agree it was probably the result of several factors, including conflict, disruptions to long-distance trade, natural disasters, and environmental change. Since 2010, archaeologists have been carrying out geophysical surveys and excavations both within Hala Sultan Tekke and in the surrounding landscape. To the east of the city, in the section known as Area A, they uncovered a large cemetery containing burial tombs and offering pits. Interestingly, these graves lay outside the city itself, even though late Bronze Age burials in Cyprus were usually placed within or much closer to settlements. Earlier this year, a detailed study of the remarkable grave goods from these tombs revealed just how wealthy and internationally connected the people buried there were. The finds read like a catalogue of the Bronze Age world. Hundreds of ceramic vessels had arrived from mainland Greece and Crete, while Egypt was represented by gold jewellery, scarabs, faience glass, and finely carved calcite vessels. Pottery and silver objects came from Anatolia, cylinder seals and ceramics from the Levant, and even Mesopotamia was represented by a large faience flask and a cylinder seal inscribed in cuneiform. The trade network stretched even further. Lapis lazuli had travelled from Afghanistan, carnelian probably came from the Indus region, and amber had made the extraordinary journey from the Baltic. This wealth was no accident. Hala Sultan Tekke was one of the Eastern Mediterranean's major copper-producing centres. Archaeologists have uncovered furnaces, copper ore, and vast quantities of slag, showing that metal production was central to the city's economy. The inhabitants also manufactured purple-dyed textiles and fine pottery, exchanging these valuable products sometimes directly and sometimes through intermediaries for luxury goods from across the known world. By the 13th century BCE, Hala Sultan Tekke had become one of the great crossroads of the late Bronze Age. The latest study focuses on gold diadems and gold mouthpieces. Diadems were worn by the living as symbols of status before eventually accompanying some individuals into the grave, whereas mouthpieces appear to have been made specifically for funerary rituals. The researchers wanted to know whether these objects reflected purely Cypriot traditions or whether their designs and manufacturing techniques had been influenced by the many cultures connected to Hala Sultan Tekke through trade. The strongest evidence comes from chamber tomb XX, the wealthiest burial excavated at Hala Sultan Tekke so far. Used for around a century, it contained the remains of 29 people together with almost 300 grave goods made from gold, silver, ivory, glass, amber, and other exotic materials. Among them was the largest gold diadem yet discovered at the site. Known as the bull diadem, it is decorated with 7 finely engraved bulls wearing Egyptian-style wigs, each with a sun disk-like symbol between its horns. Floral borders and palm motifs resemble designs found on Mycenaean pottery, while the repeated 8-petaled rosettes on it are also familiar from Mycenaean art. Buried alongside this individual were locally made Cypriot vessels, Mycenaean pottery, an Egyptian faience bowl decorated with the deity Hathor, and an Aegean bronze knife with an ivory handle. And this wasn't the only remarkable diadem from tomb XX. Another burial in the same tomb contained the ibex feline diadem, the heaviest example in the study. Running ibexes, stylized felines, rosettes, and palm motifs are combined into a single composition, while an unexpected spiral hints at an Aegean influence. Nearby archaeologists also found a plain gold mouthpiece, suggesting that different forms of elite funerary display could accompany the same burial traditions. A third diadem from tomb XX, known as the double spiral diadem, is dominated by a motif long associated with Mycenaean decorative art. It was buried with locally produced pottery and carved ivory objects, again illustrating the mixture of local and imported traditions. Importantly, tomb XX was not unique. As archaeologists examined the cemetery, the same pattern kept appearing. In chamber tomb YY, a worn gold diadem decorated with 8-petaled rosettes accompanied local pottery and a Mycenaean crater. Chamber tomb RR, the most densely occupied tomb in the cemetery, produced another double spiral diadem together with an Anatolian silver deity pendant, gold jewellery, and a Cypriot cylinder seal. Chamber tomb AB West contained yet another spiral decorated diadem buried alongside an Egyptian calcite juglet, an ivory distaff, and pottery from Cyprus, Crete, mainland Greece, and Anatolia. Even the less elaborate burials tell the same story. Chamber tomb X contained a diadem engraved with a cross-hatched decoration, a design found across both the Aegean and the Levant. Shaft tomb LL and chamber tomb UU each produced plain gold diadems, but these two were buried alongside imported ceramics and luxury goods from neighbouring regions. Finally, chamber tomb VV yielded another gold mouthpiece within a tomb filled with objects from Egypt, Anatolia, the Aegean, Mesopotamia, and Cyprus. Viewed individually, each tomb offers only a glimpse into the lives of the people buried there, but taken together, a clear pattern emerges. The same decorative motifs appear again and again, echoing artistic traditions from Egypt, Mycenaean Greece, Anatolia, and the Levant. At the same time, these objects were buried according to Cypriot funerary customs and alongside locally made goods. Rather than simply importing foreign treasures, the people of Hala Sultan Tekke were selecting, adapting, and combining ideas from across the Mediterranean to create something uniquely Cypriot. Although the people buried here were accompanied by spectacular grave goods, their tombs were surprisingly modest. They were simply cut into the earth with little or no structural reinforcement. As the centuries passed, the chambers gradually collapsed, sealing the burials beneath the rubble and preserving them for more than 3 millennia. Many of these tombs were used repeatedly over roughly 150 years, with successive generations burying their dead together, reflecting a common funerary tradition in Bronze Age Cyprus. One of the most interesting observations in the study concerns how these diadems were actually used. The heaviest examples show clear signs of wear, suggesting they weren't made solely for burial. Instead, they were probably worn during life, perhaps on ceremonial or religious occasions, before eventually being buried with their owners. By contrast, the thinner and lighter diadems appear to have been made specifically for funerary use. Despite years of excavations within the city itself, no gold diadems have actually ever been recovered from the settlement. So while some were clearly worn before burial, all of the examples we know come from the cemeteries. Where these remarkable objects were actually manufactured also remains uncertain. The gold itself probably originated in the Nubian mines controlled by Egypt during the New Kingdom, although some may have come from sources as far away as Bulgaria. As for the craftsmen, they may have worked at Hala Sultan Tekke itself, or perhaps at other major Cypriot centres such as Enkomi, Kition, or Paphos. At present, the evidence isn't enough to be certain. The decorations themselves are pretty interesting. The famous bull diadem, for example, closely resembles images of the sacred Apis bull in New Kingdom Egypt. Yet these Egyptian depictions were themselves influenced by earlier Minoan artistic traditions. Similar patterns emerged throughout the study. Mycenaean spirals, Egyptian wigs and solar symbols, Levantine motifs, and distinctly Cypriot elements all appear together on the same objects. This suggests that the goldsmiths weren't simply copying foreign designs or importing finished products, instead they were combining artistic traditions. If you watch this channel for a while, you'll know I've talked a lot about Bronze Age connections. My video on the tin trade remains one of the most popular because it showed just how extensive these ancient exchange networks really were. But it wasn't just raw materials that traveled. Ideas, technologies, and even writing moved between cultures as well. Cyprus developed its own largely undeciphered writing system known as Cypro-Minoan, which was clearly influenced by the earlier linear A script of Minoan Crete. The archaeological evidence continues to reinforce this picture. One study, published in the Journal of Archaeological Science Reports, analysed late Bronze Age lead ingots recovered from a shipwreck off Caesarea in Israel. Lead isotope analysis showed that the metal had been mined in Sardinia before being shipped to Cyprus, where the ingots were stamped with Cypro-Minoan inscriptions and then exported onwards to the Levant. The metal travelled around 2,500 kilometres through a sophisticated trading network, with Cyprus acting as a major redistribution centre. The late Bronze Age Mediterranean was very interconnected, and the connections went further than that. At Hala Sultan Tekke, people, materials, artistic traditions, ideas all came together and they blended into something entirely new. If you've come across any other interesting research on Bronze Age trade, let me know in the comments. I'll try to put some more videos together on this subject because it's a particular fascination of mine. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.